Hey guys, it's Mr. Beck. In this video, we're going to be talking about data types and variables in the processing program and the processing language. Okay. So I just have a brand new sketch window open right here. I haven't typed anything in yet. Okay. Just want to talk about it real quick before we get started. Data types. So in your programs and computer programs, you have different types of data. Okay, obviously these are called data types in computer science. Different types of data will include whole numbers or decimal numbers or words, letters, characters, any character on the keyboard. Then you have further data types which are not covered in this class, but they are like queues and stacks, and you have maps and linked lists and things like that. But the primitive data types, the ones that we are interested in, are called the primitive data types. Okay, these are going to be numbers or letters, or even the idea or the true or false, a value of true or false. Okay, but let's see what we're going to be working with here, okay? Because I'm going to show you all the primitive data types in this video, okay? So, in processing, there's probably 5 or 6 data types that you need to worry about here. 4 of them are going to be the primitive data types, and then one or two are going to be the non-primitive data types. Primitive data types are just the lowest level variable that you can have. It actually stores the value, so we'll talk about that more as we get on in the video. Okay, so here are the actual. Let me put in a comment here for my name, and then a comment for the date. And then a comment for what this video is doing. Okay, so we're gonna talk about data types and variables in processing. Okay, so here we go. Let's line this up a little bit better. Here we go. All right, so data types and variables in processing. These are going to be the primitive data types. They are int, int, okay? Int stands for int, and it is any whole number, okay? Anything without a decimal. Int is a whole number, all right? Then we have float. Float is any number with a decimal, okay? So any decimal number has to be a float data type, all right? Then we get into another data type, which is a letter, okay, which is a char. Any letter or special character, okay? So that is a char. And then let's go down to the next line. We'll just add it here. Then we have what is called a Boolean, okay? Boolean is a true or false value. That's it. True or false. This is how we make decisions in our program. We can do a lot with Booleans. Thank George Boole for that. It is the basis of computer science, so you got to get good with using those Booleans. But anyway, those are the first 4 primitive data types that we are going to use. Okay. So whenever you make a variable in processing, you have to declare what type of data it's going to be. Okay, so you have to give it a data type. So now we're going to go into variables. Variables are a storage of data. So it's like a box that you could put something in. You can put a number, say you can put a number in there. The number's 5. Okay, let's say the box is called score. The score right now at this moment is set to 5. But then, you know, as you go through the game or whatever it is, whatever you're playing, then the score goes up usually. So maybe the box called the score has the number 6 or 7 or 8 or 25 or 500 or whatever your score is, right? So it's just like a storage area, a storage box for whatever data that you're trying to store, which is a int, a float, a char, or a boolean, okay, at this point. So the way that you declare a variable is you put the data type in front and then you put the variable after that. So int score, and then you set it to 5, okay? You are setting this variable score to the value 5, all right? This shows up in a different color. You see this is like an orange color right here. It is int. This is a special reserved word in the processing language that you cannot use as your variable names. It is called int, and it shows up in that orange color. So here's the name score. It has a yellow line under it. All it says is that the value of score is not being used. Okay, so we're not using it for anything. Yes, we're just storing it in the value 5. So this right here is the assignment operator in a computer science. Okay, it is not the equal sign. Okay, so you have to get that straight. It's gonna help you to start using some of this language and tech or computer science vocabulary. You have to use it. You have to get comfortable with using it, okay? Because that's going to help you become a better programmer faster. So this is the assignment operator. It's not the equal sign. So you say, give me a computer. I need an integer variable. I'm going to call it score, and I'm going to set it to the value 5, okay? So score is set to the value 5. All right. Let's make a float variable. So you say float, and then let's say GPA. Okay, GPA, and we're going to set that to 3.52. Okay, 3.52. Put a semicolon at the end. Now we have a float variable, float type variable called GPA, and it's set to the value 3.52. Okay. Let's say a char. So if we want a special character, we're going to call it a char data type. Give me a char data type. I want to call it letter, and I want to set it to the uppercase letter T. Okay, so you want to set it to the uppercase letter T. So if you notice with the char, you have to put the single quotation marks around there. It's the key right next to the enter key, so you got to put those single quotation marks around that letter. So if it's uppercase letter T, then it's going to print out uppercase letter. Remember that the case is very important in processing in Java. So whatever case you put in that letter, it is going to print it out that way or display it in whatever program that you have. So, but the char can only be one letter. It cannot be two. Because then it gives you an error. See, it's right there. It says invalid character constant, right? You got 2 characters in there, not just one. So we put it back the way that we had it, and there is the character, the char variable called letter, and it's set to the uppercase letter T at this point. Okay. So then the Boolean, you would just say Boolean, and let me say is on. Say is on. Okay. I want a Boolean variable. I want to call it is on, and I want to set it to false. That means that it is not on. It's actually off. Okay. So is on. If is on was true, whatever it would be, like the computer, the thermostat, the car, who knows, would be in the on position. It would be true. It would be actually on or running. Okay. So that's how you set up a Boolean right there. The Boolean is a true or false. It can only be true or false, so you can't set it to anything else, okay? So there's your variable there. Now that we know how to make variables, we can make variables for anything we want. And a lot of times in your programs, you're going to want variables for many different things, right? So in a game, you have an int for a score. Maybe you have an int for lives. You know, you're going to count down from, say, 4 lives or something like that. You probably have an int number for the high score. You know how in games you try to beat the high score, and who knows what it is. It could be 3 million or whatever, you know, whatever you want the high score to be. Actually, this number is actually out of range, okay? So the deal with the data types are that they have a certain amount of data that they can store, right? So a whole number is a different amount of storage in the memory of the computer than it is a decimal number, okay? So each one of these numbers has a certain amount of memory in the computer where it can store, okay? So if I put this number, which has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 zeros, is too big to store in an int. So if I take a few of these off, eventually it's going to say that the number works and it's going to be fine, okay? So there it is. See, that's the deal right there. So if you go back and look at the notes, it'll tell you like the numbers that these variables can hold. So say the high score right there is 300 million, right? 300 million. So somebody has to beat the high score, right? Then you can have a low score, whatever you want to have, right? So if you got a GPA, a float for GPA, you can have a float for tax, right? Tax is a decimal number, 8.25 all the time. Okay. Here we go. So we got a float for tax. Any other floats that you want to make, that's perfectly fine. You can have a char for letter. You can have a char for letter 2, or you could say char 2 like that. You want to put that together, and then you can put like the hash number # in there if you would like. And then finally, you know, you got Boolean over here. You got Boolean. You can make another Boolean. Who knows? Is alive set to true in the beginning of the game, or Boolean, you know, if they run out of lives, they are dead, or what have you. The game is over. So you can make any kind of Boolean that you want. Let's say, you know, is daytime. So is it daytime? Yeah, sure, it's daytime. So you can set is day to true or is day to false, however you wanted to do that there. Okay, so that's how you make the primitive variables in processing. And follow us in the next video, and I'll show you some more variables and what you can do with them. Okay, see you in the next video.